to my eyes. When you see me on a show, when you see these fans, you know you've got the best in the damn world.
This is the Wrestling Matters podcast where we stand up for professional wrestling.
Here we fucking go!
Well, enough is enough, and it's time for a change!
Professional wrestling! This is it! This is us standing up! Yes! 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 Yes!
That's 13-14!
Dina, I am the best in the world.
Cause that's the bottom line. Cause Stone Cold said so.
Hello everyone, welcome to the 150th episode of the Wrestling Matters podcast. That's right, my name is Anthony Walker here for the Wrestling Matters podcast. Hope you guys are well. And yeah guys, it's 105, 150 even. Good God, nearly 2.5 years. And I've reached the 150 mark. Hard work pays off there, I guess. On today's show, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk women's division. We're going to talk Raw, SmackDown, 205 NXT, as well as Ring of Honor and TNA. We're going to throw a few other things here and there, and a few Royal Rumble top 10 countdowns for the show, plus another part of the Nikki Addams interview as well. All to come on this podcast. A little thing down the road there. Also, guys, a few other things here and there, new things that are on the horizons, and also I will be taking you some things down memory lane. Some of my best things that I've done since doing this podcast. You know, Can I do a top 3? Could I do a top 3? I don't know. But yeah, a lot of thank yous, all of that to come later on. The following episode of the Wrestling Matters podcast you can listen to on SoundCloud, download it for free. You can listen to it on Radio Big World, and also check it out on the Wrestling Matters channel as well, AJW Wrestling Matters. Also, that's on YouTube as well, just to clear that up. Also, check it out on the Swerve Talk Network as well, the new and improved Swerve Talk Network. With Daz, you've got Max Wrestling, you've got Offshoot Radio, Sunday Segway TV. Check out Sunday Segway as well. That's on there as well. Sunday Segway TV is the other thing that he does. Also check that out as well. And also Dad's podcast, I believe it's called. Check that out as well. I almost forgot about that, to be honest. But anyway, check that out as well. That's all there as well. But mainly check out the Sunday Segway as well with my main man, the mentor himself, Mr. Kinny Killer. Also, check out all the other goodness that is on there from S&M Show podcast. And yes, I am on the S&M Show. I am on the Swerve Talk Network, twice. Because I am now part of, or was a part of anyway, but I'm also a part now of the Wrestling Unleashed. And like I said, there's going to be necessary situations that I'm not always going to be there, but the hell with it. I'm going to be there as best I can, doing my best Jim Cornette impersonation. So join me and my good buddy, Mr. Michael Larkin, for that as well. Also, big shout out to all my partners in crime, OSW TV, big thank you to them as well. Raging Falcon, and shout out to Talk Brunch and Mr. Rick Dowder as well, and also his right-hand girl, if you will, Miss Rodriguez. Thank you, and hey, shout out to you, hope everything's well. Also, big shout out to Wrestle Island as well. A big shout out to you, Mr. David Anderson, as well as the other teams of Wrestle Island as well, and also Mystery Island as well. Don't forget to check them out. Facebook.com/Back to the Island and Facebook.com/The Mystery Island. Be sure to Wrestle Island. Did I say Back to the Island? Okay. Facebook.com/Back to the Island. Facebook.com/Wrestle Island. Yeah, there you go. Words, not mixing. Anyway, right, let's kick off this podcast then, shall we? Let's talk about one thing and one thing only. Well, one main thing that came up this week for me. Solomonster. Good old Solomonster. Came up with this idea. He had a question thrown at him and he answered it, as he always does. Check him out, Solomonster. I kind of agree with him in a way. But I'll get to the thing. It was should the women's division have their own Royal Rumble? I would say yes, because let's face it, the men ain't doing a very good job with their own Royal Rumble. 2017, Roman Reigns coming out, more on that later. Anyway, but yeah, I think they should have their own Royal Rumble. It'll bring a lot of prestige. It'll bring a lot of credibility to the women's titles. And it'll give the women on the roster a fair, incredible opportunity to be, to go for a championship at WrestleMania. The SmackDown women's title or the Raw women's title. Yeah, I like that idea. What I don't like is the fact that the Money in the Bank ladder match. You just basically kill the girls, especially with the Elimination Chamber as well. No. Keep it Royal Rumble. What you could, like Solomonster said, what you could do is maybe kick it off with a Royal Rumble. The female's Royal Rumble. Number one contender. When it becomes number one contender and faces the champion. Then have the championship match. And then have the big one, and I use that term loosely, in the main event. So yeah, I'm all for that. Would it work as well? Yeah. It depends. It all depends on how many you want. Could you get 30 girls in a ring at the same time? To be the Royal Rumble, because you've got 30 men Royal Rumble, 30 man Royal Rumble, and could you get 30 girls? It's an interesting concept. That maybe you could do it with 20. It wouldn't be a bad thing, depending on how you want to set it out. It all depends on how they want to set it out. But I say, yeah, go for it. Go for it. Go for the gusto, if you will, and go for go for the way and everything. Go for the women's Royal Rumble. I love it. I love that idea. I love that concept. And like I say, it brings a little bit more credibility to the titles as well. But don't put them in the Money in the Bank. Don't put them in the ladder match, for crying out loud. Don't put them in the chamber match, for fuck's sake. Because that's just a bad idea all over it. Another thing that popped up this week, ladies and gents, guess who's coming back? According to what culture? Wrestle Talk TV. Guess who's coming back? Brother. That's right. Hogan is rumored flying around and everything. From Wrestle Talk TV. Where do I say what culture? More on WCPW in a second, by the way. Yeah, don't you just love it, eh? Hogan, just when you thought you can get rid of him, he's coming back, apparently. It looks like WWE seemed to have forgiven him for the racist bullshit. But, yeah. They just didn't want the heat, so they broke away from him for the time being. But now they seem to be willing to forgive and forget and bring him back. I would imagine he'd be back at Mania. If he's coming back, couldn't be any better time to have him back, and that's WrestleMania. Well, I guess we'll wait and see and believe it when we see it, ladies and gents, I guess. And also, stay tuned to the future podcast as well. I will be watching Progress Wrestling 43 and hopefully reviewing it. So be sure to check that out in the upcoming episode of the podcast. Also, speaking of wrestling promotions, WCPW, according to one of the videos this week, seems to be on a hiatus for the time being. I don't know if that's the case in terms of, or in respects of WCPW wanting to, improve the product a little bit. They want to improve the product and improve it the best they can. So yeah, I don't know how that's going to work out, but only WCPW know. So yeah, so that'll be back probably at the end of February. WCPW, we'll have to wait and see how that pans out as well. And there will be a WCPW podcast, hopefully, when it eventually returns. Also, be sure to be on the lookout as well this coming week, all being well, when I do WCPW True Destiny, which apparently is Kurt Angle's last match in the UK, because in April he's going to be in the Hall of Fame. So we'll have to wait and see how that pans out also. So it should be alright, it should be good. We should be good to go in terms of that. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see how things progress in that as well. So yeah, it's all good. It's all good in the hood, ladies and gents. It's all good in the hood. So, yeah. And also check out Jim Ross as well. He's going to be doing voice color commentating and fuck you to Dave Bradshaw. Also, ladies and gents, one more piece of news. It is the end of Legends with JBL, apparently. This poor bastard can't get any more legends on his podcast, on his show, to be honest with you. So what do you do if you can't do that? You kick it to one side. And unfortunately, that has come to be the case, which is a shame, actually, because as much as I am not the biggest fan of JBL's color commentating, that was a bloody good show. To be honest with you, Legends with JBL, it was actually a bloody good show. And Legends with JBL is, it had Sting, it had Booker T, The Outsiders, Medusa, Ron Simmons, and the list goes on, man. It was just great to watch. It really was. Very in-depth as well. You had Stan Hansen last week, and I believe the final one is Jimmy Hart. So, best way to end, really. But yeah, the final one is Jimmy Hart. So, that would be very cool to see. Will it come back in the future? Yeah, if you can get some more legends and that. But it is what it is at the end of the day. So, it is a shame because that was actually a good show. But what can you do if you run out of stuff? It's time to put it away. All in all, ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of part numero uno of the Wrestling Matters podcast. I'll be back right after this with Raw, SmackDown, NXT, and 205 as well. So be sure to check it out in a bit. If you enjoy the Wrestling Matters podcast, why not check out the Wrestling Matters podcast right now on YouTube at AJW Wrestling Matters. You can also check it out on SoundCloud at Wrestling_Matters_podcast. That's /Wrestling_Matters_podcast. Also, check it out on Radio Big World as well. For more information on them, you can check them out on SoundCloud and the Swerve Talk Network as well. For more each and every week of the Wrestling Matters podcast, weekly podcast that talk about the best in professional wrestling today, whether it's WWE, Ring of Honor, TNA, ICW, Progress Wrestling, and the list goes on and on. Only the best in professional wrestling. Why? Because wrestling matters, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to part 2 of the Wrestling Matters podcast. Now it's time for NXT 205 Raw and SmackDown reviews. Let's start with NXT first. Let's get them out the way. Sanity, Dean and Alexander Wolf, which I believe Dean is Big Demo, defeat the Bollywood Boys. Liv Morgan defeated Billie Kay. The Revival defeat Heavy Machinery, only to be interrupted by the Authors of Pain, or they took a shot at Authors of Pain and then sneaked attacked them, saying that they want their belts back, which is a big mistake on Revival's part, in my opinion. Bobby Roode's glorious NXT Championship celebration set the tone for the new era of NXT, and Sanity defeated Todd Dillinger and No Way Jose and Roderick Strong, all because of what happened earlier on with the Bollywood Boys match as well. Sneak attack by them. So yeah, that was NXT. Now for 205. Let's get straight into 205. I've got an itchy chest rather. The 205 results are as follow. They are: Mustafa Ali defeated Daivari. The Brian Kendrick defeated Lindsay Dorado. And the gentleman Jack Gallagher defeated Mustafa Ali, TJ Perkins, Cedric Alexander, and Noam Dar in a 5-way match, which leads him to Royal Rumble. And he gets not Royal Rumble, Fastlane, to become the number 1 contender for the Cruiserweight Championship. Now we get to the Royal Rumble. No, fuck's sake, Royal Rumble. Raw. Let's get to Raw. Speaking of Fastlane. Monday Night Raw. Yes, apparently this coming week on Raw, it's Charlotte and Bayley for the women's title. And Emelina makes her debut finally. I will believe that when I see it, because I'm pretty much done with that. But anyway, February 6th edition of Monday Night Raw went as this. Okay. Reigns confronted Samoa Joe because they introduced Samoa Joe as the new Hitman. Samoa Joe coming out looking like something out of the Main Event Mafia. And yeah, it was what it was. All led to Roman Reigns one-on-one with Samoa Joe later on in the evening. Nia Jax and Bayley. Nia Jax defeated Bayley. Braun Strowman defeated 4 local competitors. Tozawa defeated Drew Gulak. Goldberg challenged Kevin Owens after accepting Brock Lesnar's challenge for WrestleMania. Goldberg challenged Kevin Owens to a Universal Championship match at Fastlane, which is granted, and it'll be Kevin Owens, Goldberg for the Universal title. Raw Tag Team Champions Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson defeated Cesaro and Sheamus via disqualification, all thanks to the interference of Enzo and Cass. New Day defeated the Shining Stars. US Champion Chris Jericho defeated Sami Zayn. Jack Gallagher, Cedric Alexander, and TJ Perkins defeated Neville, Noam Dar, and Tony Nese. And Samoa Joe defeated Roman Reigns, thanks to a little help from Braun Strowman. But I thought Samoa Joe's first match or first night on Raw was very good. Very, very good. He's now the Triple H's hitman. And since he's Triple H's hitman, I guess that makes him Stephanie's as well. Give me a break. But, yeah, it was what it was. Good match. Kind of spoiled because of the old Braun Strowman thing. But, yeah, we all know what's going to happen. It's Braun Strowman, Roman Reigns at Fastlane. We know that. So, yeah, it was what it was. And Goldberg challenging Kevin Owens for the title after accepting Brock Lesnar's challenge. That just planted the seeds right there, ladies and gentlemen, because Goldberg is going to be fighting. Goldberg goes one-on-one with Kevin Owens, wins the Universal title, and then probably drops it to Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania. That just makes things in that match a little bit more interesting. But we'll see. We'll see how things pan out. Now for SmackDown. Bryan makes an impromptu Fatal 4-Way match between the Elimination Chamber competitors, which was Baron Corbin defeating AJ Styles, The Miz, and Dean Ambrose. Nikki Bella and Natalya continue their war of words, which led to the attack by Natalya on Talking Smack. Apollo Crews finally defeats Dolph Ziggler, or finally wins a match. Poor bastard. A historic Elimination Chamber dual contract signings turned violent, which saw Naomi and Alexa Bliss sign up for their match, and Becky Lynch sign up for their match with Mickie James. Ascension, Vaudevillains, and the Usos defeat American Alpha, Breezango, and Heath Slater and Rhino in the 12-man tag. And John Cena, with a little help from Luke Harper, all setting up the match for Elimination Chamber. John Cena defeated Randy Orton in the main event. And like I say, guys, I'll just call it as it is. Bray Wyatt to win the WWE Championship. You guys know this better than I do if you've seen Elimination Chamber as well. But it should be Bray Wyatt versus Randy Orton at WrestleMania. But there's all these other ideas of where it's going to go as well. Miz was even talked about. But we'll see. You guys know what happened in Elimination Chamber. I will talk a little bit more about that next week. So, that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that is the end. Raw, SmackDown, NXT, and 205 as well. That is the end of that part. Hope you guys have enjoyed that. I'll be back in part 3 with Raw, with ROH and TNA, so stay tuned.
There's only one wrestling podcast that gives you honest, uncut opinions and the most unique trivia since WWE did The Weakest Link. And the only place you can hear the show-stealing podcast promo every single week.
Covering WWE, TNA, Ring of Honor, Lucha Underground. Max Wrestling Podcast is the place for you. Join myself, Evan Money McCabe, the Phoenix, and the Butcher. Sundays at 7 p.m. UK time, 2 p.m. Eastern time with your host, Danny Dangerously, on VOC Nation and the Swerve Talk Network.
Go to maxwrestling.wix.com/maxwrestling or follow us at maxwrestlinguk for more details.
Give in to the madness.
Be sure to listen to the Sunday Segway Wrestling Podcast.
What?
Every Sunday with Kinny Killer and the Galdem Sugar Shugs.
Yes!
With all the news, views, and laughter that you want.
They like jet airplanes. Woo! They like long limousines.
Every Sunday, the Sunday Segway Wrestling Podcast on Podomatic, iTunes, and YouTube.
So why don't you choke on that,
slap nut.
Welcome back to part 3 of the Wrestling Matters podcast. And in this part, guys, we're going to talk TNA and Ring of Honor as well. So we'll talk TNA and Ring of Honor. The DCC, Bram, James Storm, and Kingston defeat Eli Drake and Tyrus in a 2-on-3 handicap match. I'm guessing there's going to be something going down between Tyrus and Eli Drake because I believe Eli Drake walked away from Tyrus. Aaron Rex, Rockstar Spud defeat Robbie E. Drew Galloway defeated Mahalo Bashir in round 2 to retain the TNA Grand Championship. And like I said this past week, doing Wrestling Unleashed, which is you can also check out on the Swerve Talk Network, whose dick did he suck to get that title shot? Because Mahalo Bashir was god-awful. And Lashley defeated Eddie Edwards. But the story of that match, ladies and gentlemen, was Eddie Edwards' wife was sat next to Davey Richards' wife in the front row. And Davey Richards was out there supporting Eddie Edwards. Also, we thought. And Angelina Love, Davey's wife, was sat next to Eddie's wife in the crowd, like I was saying. And it got to the point where the heel turn came. Eddie had Lashley beat. Davey pulls the leg from the referee's leg out, stops the count, and then all hell breaks loose. And then Angelina Love, I'm sorry, she did a heel turn herself on Eddie's wife, but she royally knocked the fuck right out of Eddie's wife. I don't know what the hell that was or anything like that, but she just turned round, smacked her right in the mouth. The next minute, she's laid on the floor. Eddie's wife, that is, just laid on the floor like she just got punched in the street somewhere or something. Just like, it was like, I mean, it was, that moment when she did that, it was like Ice Cube and and Chris Tucker. Damn! You know, that kind of thing. It was just fucking hell, she knocked her out clean. And then all hell breaks loose, and then the heel turn happens, and no, more than likely now we're going to see Eddie Edwards one-on-one with Davey Richards in the coming weeks as well. And Josh Matthews and Delangelo Dinero, who's a complete tool. And I'm not talking Delangelo Dinero, I'm talking Josh Matthews on that one. He's just a complete tool, complete idiot. But yeah, it's interesting to see what's to come on TNA. If you want more information on TNA, if you want more up-to-date stuff and more of my thoughts on TNA at the moment, check out Wrestling Unleashed this past week with me and Michael Larkin, because I give a few pointers out, especially with Aaron Rex. I cannot take that guy seriously anymore. And don't get me started on Rockstar Spud, because that poor bastard's just lost without Dixie. I'm sorry. That is the proverbial case, if you will. He is definitely lost without Dixie. Madam Dixie, if you will. I mean, good grief. Anywho, let's go to Ring of Honor. Let's do Ring of Honor's results. Ring of Honor had the tag team this past week. It was a tag team results. Tag team match, if you will. And tag team match is the main event. There's a beef brewing between Kevin Sullivan's cronies, BJ Whitmer and Martinez, and War Machine. Apparently there's a beef brewing between them because it ended on the show with what I call it. Oh, for goodness sake. They're both brawling in the back. They were just brawling in the back towards the end of the show. It was like an unbelievable situation backstage. So them two teams are going to be in a heated feud before long. Who else? Oh yes, 6-man Scrabble match. Punishment Martinez, BJ Whitmer, and then that was the situation with that one. Kingdom take out 3 guys, and then just when you thought Dalton Castle and his boys were going to come down and get in the face of the Kingdom, looks like they were challenging them. A little seed was planted for them to be challenging them for the 6-man tag team titles. Colt Cabana was at ringside, gets up and attacks Dalton Castle and takes out the boys, and then gets kicked off the announcing position by Kevin Kelly. And by the way, Kevin Kelly is now left Ring of Honor, so these are the last tapings of him in Ring of Honor, so he's no longer in Ring of Honor. So yeah. Also, the Young Bucks take on the Tempura Boys, who actually got the title shot last week, thanks to the Young Bucks, and the Young Bucks retained, no doubt about that. They retained the belts. 6-man Scrabble match was the main event for Ring of Honor this week, which saw Donovan Dijak, Chris Sabin, and Alex Shelley versus Leo Rush, Jay White. Well, actually, let me rephrase that. Donovan Dijak, Chris Sabin, Alex Shelley, Leo Rush, Jay White, and Jonathan Grisham. the winner gets a shot at Marty's skull. I'll get to Marty in a minute. And Donovan Dijak manages to get the victory. Now, if you've seen Ring of Honor this week, the funniest part of that thing, right? And I love me some Marty Scurll. Marty's good, but he's heel babyface. He is a really good wrestler. There's no question about that. But this guy sat at the announce table, right? He sat at the announce table, got his thing lift up, with his umbrella open, doing color commentary next to Kevin Kelly. And he's got his umbrella open. He sat there with his umbrella open and said, what the fuck? I mean, oh my God. I swear, even though he didn't show it on the TV, on camera and everything, I swear Kevin Kelly just looked at him and went, the fuck is that, Marty? You know? But it was hilarious, nonetheless. And I love me some Marty Scurll, like I said, but it'll be Donovan Dijak and Marty Scurll for the Ring of Honor TV title down the road, probably at the next pay-per-view. But with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of the Ring of Honor and TNA part. Hope you guys enjoyed that. I'll be back in part 4 with the next part of the Nikki Addams interview. And I'll be back in part 5 with Elimination Chamber Top 10. Top 10 things that I want you to forget about the Elimination Chamber. And then I'll be back in part 6 with an outro as well. And plus my thoughts and thank yous to people as well. So stay tuned. If I go back down now, they're going to boo the hell out of me. Hell.
Yeah, like basically that's a career ender. Bye. See you later.
Exactly. I've done that myself. But thankfully, I've only done that. I've never done that in the... I have gone up to the top ropes, but the best thing I've ever done off a top rope was a headbutt. Like a Benoit, Daniel Bryan.
Oh, that's great, though.
Yeah.
I've never tried that. I mean, could I learn it? Most likely. But to this date, I have yet to try that. I've done a few other things off the top rope, like I've thrown a clothesline, I've done the Doomsday device as a tag team. I've done a Swanton bomb.
Wow.
Notoriously always miss it.
Yeah.
The missile drop kick, stuff like that. Maybe a top rope leg drop, things like that, you know. But to date, I have not attempted the Benoit headbutt.
I've always admired people who do the Swanton bomb because I've always tempted to do that move myself, but it was like the situation of thinking, especially when you go up on the top rope. I mean, the headbutt for me, I would always like take the headbutt and I would body slam my opponent. But I'd turn him to the side a little bit as I'm putting him in position. Unless I get him in position straight away, I'd always have him at the side. And I would always aim for... And when I do a headbutt, it was kind of like a Bam Bam Bigelow kind of thing. What Bigelow used to do. When he used to jump off and he used to just like jump down. And he'd always... I think he'd always aim for the side. I'd never go for anywhere near, you know, like the head area.
Yeah, well, because...
Exactly.
You know, if it's a head really meeting a head at that like speed, that's definitely not going to end well.
Yeah, it's not going to end well for that person, and not only that person, the guy who's delivering it. I would always keep it like on the sides, everything, aim for like the heart area or the chest area, round about there, just to make it safe for me as well. And it wasn't easy getting up on the ropes on the time, but I used to get up there a lot, and I used to enjoy it. And I was always tempted to do. I always thought about if I could get on like big shows and that, which I never got the opportunity. Like I say, me and the promoter never saw eye to eye on our wrestling. Like I say, our philosophies on wrestling were different at the time, and it would always clash and everything. And I would always think to myself, if I could do a headbutt, maybe I could do a frog splash as well. But
yeah, I mean, you probably could. I mean, I did go through a period of time where I was doing the frog splash, trying to learn that, and then there was another female doing it, so. You know, we were appearing on the same shows together, so considering that was her finish, that's her finish. Like, I had a different finish, so there was no reason for me to be doing it. That's just common courtesy or respect. But I think you could. If you could get up there and do a headbutt, I think you could handle the frog splash.
Yeah. If you could, what's it actually like? Obviously, you've said you've missed it, but what's it actually like doing a swanton? Because that's going to be a dangerous move as well. Because at the end of the day, you have to tuck your head in. You have to get into that position when you dive off and you attempt, and and you try and execute the move. You've got to be quick to tuck your head in, because if you don't, you're going to whack your head on the canvas, aren't you? So you've got to be quick to tuck your head into the position.
It's about the timing.
Exactly. Yes.
Nerve-wracking. I mean, it got easier as, like, I did it, like, once I became more comfortable with it, but, like, it was always, like, the first few times you're like, oh, my God, what am I doing? You get up there, and it's positioning it, so it's not just a monkey flip off the top. You want to, like, do it where you jump. You kind of have that, like, the way I kind of always explained it is, like, how a squirrel jumps from tree to tree. You kind of just spread out, and then the last second, you, like, tuck your head and make that turn so you could land.
Yeah.
It gets easier, obviously, and more comfortable as you do it. But the first few tries, you're like, oh, my God, I'm going to die, until you overcome the fear, realize that you figured out how to execute it, and it's all good. I tried it frequently on a crash pad. God forbid, like, I just mistimed it or whatever. My head was just going to hit the pad, so it was okay. But, and that's how I pretty much figured that out. I also did a lot, like, I learned a lot of stuff, that I wanted to do just to make sure, because sometimes you think, I'd like to do this, I want to try that, but sometimes your body won't allow you to do it,
Yeah.
Like, or physics just says that something you're thinking might not be possible,
Yeah.
So it's always good to have something there, like a guide, a person to spot you, or a pad, just to ensure your safety.
Yeah.
Because just because you can picture something in your head, it'd be great if you can pull it off. But you know what? Sometimes logistically, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, and if it doesn't pull off, like I say, there's always an alternative. I mean, I used to talk to a lot of guys up there, and they were thinking about, doing something like into like springboard off the ropes, and they're like jumping onto the ropes and then springboard off it, and maybe doing a move off that way. And I would always say to them, it's all right. If you think you could do it, go for it. But just remember, there's always an alternative, and I would always point to the turnbuckles as well, because if that doesn't work, just climb up to the top rope and try that as well, and that would be probably a better alternative. I've never done any like springboard moves, thank God. I didn't. I wanted
the springboard move I do is I jump off the second rope, back into the ring, going backwards, and do a back elbow.
Yeah, those are the kind.
That's what I do.
Those are the kind of safer options, aren't there? If you're doing like a springboard and you go do like an elbow drop, because those are easy. Elbow drops are easy to do no matter where you are, whether you jump off a second rope or you jump off the top rope or anything like that, because it's basically the first thing you do. Well, it's the first thing I learned when you're on the floor and everything, and you're on the canvas and everything, and you're not doing like aerial moves. But like I said, I always said to people I worked with, there's always an alternative, a safer option, if you will. Don't risk something if you fear it. If you want to go for it, but don't get to the point where it's going to cost you your career or it's going to put you paralyzed or anything like that.
Right. I agree.
Yeah,
totally.
Because if you make one mistake, you're knackered. That's what people don't appreciate about the wrestling business. What people piss me off about the wrestling business, say, oh, it's fake, it's scripted, and this, that, and the other. Yes, it's scripted, but if you make one mistake in the ring, you're fucked. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like, that's the thing that, like, yeah, I agree. Like, we know it's scripted. We know what the outcome was going to be before we head out of the curtain, true. But the bumps, the abuse to our bodies, that's not fake.
Exactly.
Like, that is brutal. Like, and people don't understand that or respect that.
Yeah.
And you make one mistake, you're going to have an injury. And if that's the case, you just pray that it's on the lesser of the sides, because unfortunately we've seen wrestling moves that have ended careers, that have paralyzed people, that have killed people. Like, it's not a joke. Like, you go out there, it's like whether you're gonna heckle the people in the ring or not, but at the end of the day, you still have to have respect that people go out there and do that. If you have a problem with it, nobody said you needed to go watch it,
I always get. I mean, if I had a pound for everybody coming up to me, I mean, I'm a proud wrestling fan. I've been watching wrestling all my life, and I will fight to keep on watching it until the day I die, because it's what I do. And if I can get to do some of it, I'll jump all over it, no problem. But if I had a pound for every time somebody came up to me and said, oh, wrestling's fake, wrestling's this, that, and the other, I'm like, shut the fuck up, please. God, it's, if I had a pound for every time I said that, I probably wouldn't be sat here talking to you, because there's been a lot of people that have come up to me and say that, but it's just then they get on my nerves. And people always say to me, oh, what's it like being in the wrestling ring, wrestling's fake and everything. I'm like, you go to a wrestling class, train up, get yourself in, get on the show, and take all the bumps, and then you tell me it's fake. And don't become crying to me if you wake up one day with a bruise on your chest or anything like that. Okay.
Oh, absolutely. Like, that's the point. Yes. Like the day you learn how to run the ropes, and then your lat is black and blue and sore because your body has to adjust to feeling what it's like to hit either a rope or a cable on the regular.
Yeah.
People don't understand that.
Yeah.
You do get bruised, and then they do have classes where it's like, oh, we're gonna beat up the new person just to see if they can take it, and then you got to take it and show up the next day, because if you don't, you didn't make it. But you get your respect when you show up. You're like, okay, I'm ready to go. And they don't understand, like, things like that. And that's why I'm just saying, just have some common respect. Unless you experience it and you have, like, an opinion like that, like, you don't know, and you don't know, like, the extent of the abuse that we do to our bodies just to, like, entertain you. And sometimes you go out there and there's a crowd of 7, and sometimes you go out there and there's a crowd of 700. But it doesn't lessen the amount of work the person puts in if it's for 7 people or more. Like, you're going to go out there and you're going to put on a match as if there's, like, 1,000+ people out there. And, I hate when people are sitting there and they're tearing people down. Even if it's not the best match you've seen, what do you think? Those people are training to get better. This is, like, the beginning of their career. Give them a chance.
Yeah.
They're trying, the next time you see them, it'll be better. The time after that, it'll be better. But, like, it's not like you're going to jump in there that day and be like, this is the easiest thing ever, and, like, just bang out moves and be like, okay, I get it. Oh, and look, I understand how a match should go together too. Like, no. Like, they'll never understand that aspect,
exactly.
So
and I can tell
the
you,
least they could do is respect the fact that we, like, do put our body on the line.
And I can tell you this firsthand as well, and I'm sure you would agree with this as well, it's not easy. It's not easy at all. It is not as easy as people think it is. That's why people don't appreciate it.
Oh, not at all. A lot of people think it's, like, the easiest thing, and I'm like, let me just, why don't you get in the ring and we'll push you over and see how you feel.
Yeah. Take the bumps as well. I mean, when I did my training with the wrestling company, there was a lot of people that were struggling to take the bumps. I mean, I knew, because in a way, I was a natural, because, I mean, not only did I watch them at home, in front of my TV and everything, but I developed and caught the bumps. I was like a natural with them. They like came to me as natural as well, especially with the bumps when you take it. If you're on the receiving end of a power slam, you have to put your arms out just to take that bump and make sure your chin's tucked in as well, so you don't bang your head on the thing. Even though I have banged my head on the canvas a couple of times, and it's no joke.
I do too.
Yeah, I've done that a few times as well. It's no joke.
Yeah, this is why I don't remember anything, so I understand.
Yeah, it's no joke, but it's sometimes it is really difficult to get to that process. It's a natural thing to do. Don't get me wrong. When you eventually get into there, to tuck your chin in and be that safe. But
right. It takes time though.
But
it really does.
Absolutely. It takes a hell of a lot of time, and sometimes you don't always get it straight away. But if you keep at it and keep practicing it, you will get it eventually. And it is very difficult to do. And like I said, I bumped my head a few times on the canvas. It's no joke. But like I was saying, I mean, people there was a lot of people, all right, they weren't as experienced as the people they were getting trained by and working with, but they used to struggle to take the bumps. And I always thought that was the easiest thing to do. And then when I got in the ring, all right, it came natural, but it didn't come natural to me straight away. I'd have to. It was the case of facing your fear, because I admit, when I used to take the bumps, especially with the chops and everything, those were a little intimidating for me. As a first time in the ring, from doing training and doing something that you've watched on TV and everything, and you've seen, it's all this. I learned to appreciate the chops a hell of a lot more. And I learned to take the bumps a lot more, and I learned to appreciate the whole thing. And when I walked out of that first training session, I don't know if you did the same when you first trained. When I walked out of that first training session I walked home and thought, okay, I'm a fan of this business. I love this business to death. I even have a newfound respect for it now for what the people are going through, especially the people in WWE as well. All right, when I trained, it wasn't on the statue of a WWE, but it was still wrestling, and it was still the same. And I learned to appreciate it a little bit more. And I don't know if that was the same with you when you first trained.
Yeah, I mean, not that I didn't respect it to begin with, you know, and I actually knew going into it, like, for me at least, that it was not going to be an easy challenge to overcome, you know, just because, you know, I was young, I wasn't in the best shape, you know, I was like, but I wanted to try. I'm like, I'm going to do this, and hopefully I step up to the plate and do what I need to do, meaning, like, get into shape, work on my wind and my stamina. And, like, it's a hard thing to overcome, like, teaching yourself to fall on your back. Because by nature, if we go to trip or slip, the one thing we try to do is prevent falling on our back. That's the one thing you don't want to fall on, because you can cause the most injury if you fall on it.
It's so true.
You slip on ice. So now to be like, yeah, let me just pretend I'm falling on ice and, like, taking this back bump, it's a very hard thing, because by nature, you want to catch your fall and protect yourself. So, I mean, that was something that was definitely, I'm like, oh, this is weird. But once I got used to it, you know, it's like you're either going to get used to it and be able to do it, or you're not. Or some people, like, there's times where people, it took me, like, I worked and worked, and then, like, trying. 8 months in, it's like, oh, I have a clue. Yeah. So, you know, sometimes it kicks in sooner for other people, sometimes later. And then sometimes people realize that it's just not what they thought it was going to be. That's all. And then they decide that, you know, they gave it a shot and that's that. Yeah. But it's definitely, like, I do enjoy, I can't lie, when people come in there and they think it's going to be the easiest thing ever. I really do enjoy seeing them be like, well, I was wrong.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, you were.
Yeah, wrestling's not for everybody, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? There's one thing you definitely have to do. Everything else comes into fruition. Everything else, you know, speaks for itself. But there's one thing you've got to be able to do to survive, or at least have a chance of making it in the business if you want to be a professional wrestler and you want to go, say, the distance. There's one thing you have to do. And it's not just in wrestling, it's probably in other sports as well. You have to learn to take, or have the ability and the wherewithal to take pain.
Yeah, that's for sure.
If you don't, get out the business. And quick.
Yeah, you have to either be able to take it or learn how to take it, because you got a stiff shot or something unfortunately goes wrong, you still need to figure out how you're getting to the end of that, because it's not just, oh, I got hurt, let me roll out. No, you have to finish the job and deal with it later. Like in the 2014 Psycho Circus opening match, I think it might have been a 4-way tag match. I took a double big boot to chest from Apollyon and Bill Carr, and one of the boots went wrong, and it broke my sternum. And that was 30 seconds into the match, and we still had 12 minutes, and there were other teams, but I still had to make it through everything else I had to do. And I did. And watching back on that match, it's very painful to watch, because you literally, the microphone picks up everything. It hears me literally gasping for air, hardcore suffering, you name it. Like, it's, the struggle is real, but that's what I signed on for, and I have too much pride to not do it. So there I am, doing what I'm doing.
Yeah. Have you ever had an injury that you've never realized you've got until you go backstage and think, you know, something's wrong here and everything, and you go and check it out and you realize you've got, and then you realize you've got the injury? Because there's a lot of wrestlers that have had that I've seen anyway.
If it's something significant, I usually do know in the moment. I'm like, okay, this isn't good. I might not know in the moment the extent of it. Like, I had no idea that my sternum was broken. Like, I thought I just took a pretty bad shot and that I was in pain. I did not realize how bad it was until I got looked at. But usually with other things, like I've had like a broken wrist and stuff like that, usually I kind of have an idea that it's like that. Other than that, I've taken some shots and stuff, and I'm like, ooh, that hurt. Or maybe you get hit, you don't even know how bad you were hit, and then you get back there and the adrenaline's coming down. You're like, wow, why the hell does my head hurt so bad or something?
Yeah.
You know, like, did I hit my head? And then you stop and you like really think about it and you're like, oh yeah, stuff like that.
Yeah. It's just, I mean, because like I say, I've seen a lot of wrestlers, I've watched a lot of wrestlers, a lot of wrestlers in the past that I've come across as well. They've always told the story that they've had this injuries and everything, but they've never realised it until they've went backstage or they've went to the doctors and had it checked out or have had an x-ray and thing. And then they obviously don't know, but when they've had this like a random x-ray, they come back and say, oh, you so-and-so, your elbow, or you've done this to your arm, or you've done this to your wrist. Are you aware of that? And that has to be a scary thing as well.
Yeah, no, it's really nerve-wracking, but fortunately, like, I mean, I have gotten hurt, but usually I have an idea of how bad it is.
Yeah, I was going to say, at least if you get hurt, at least you know, or at least you're aware. I mean, I can't imagine what it's like if you get hurt and you're not aware of it. You know, because...
No, neither.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you get hurt, you want to be aware of it so you can go and get it sorted out quick. And if you don't, then that could be costly to you, especially to a wrestler's a career as well, because you don't know it's there, you don't know how serious it is, and the more you leave it and you don't realize it's there, the more serious it can be. Are you sick of professional wrestling? Do you want to speak your mind about professional wrestling? Well, if you like a wrestling podcast, why not tune in to the wrestling podcast where wrestling matters, the Wrestling Matters Podcast. Each and every week, I talk about the best in professional wrestling from WWE, TNA, ICW, Progress Wrestling, Ring of Honor, and the list goes on and on. Also, on the other occasions, I bring guests in as well to shoot the breeze about the one thing that I love, that we all love, professional wrestling. So join me each and every week for the Wrestling Matters Podcast on YouTube, AJW Wrestling Matters, the Wrestling Matters YouTube channel, SoundCloud, soundcloud.com/wrestling_matters_podcast, and any other podcasts that matters. Wrestling Matters, wrestling fans. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to part 5 of the Wrestling Matters Podcast. And now we're going to go to 10 things WWE wants you to forget about the Elimination Chamber, according to What Culture Pro Wrestling. Yes, the Elimination Chamber. First brought to us by Eric Bischoff in 2002. And since then, it's had everything, really, isn't it? You know, it's made champions, it's made careers, pretty much ended them. You know, but it's had some good stuff in there, some good memories and good things going in there. But this is 10 things WWE wants you to forget about the Elimination Chamber. The bulletproof pods. It's very questionable how you can call them bulletproof, where you basically can go through them at any point. They're not really bulletproof or that bulletproof. I mean, Goldberg's kicked it once before and they just went straight through. Hell, Goldberg at one point speared Chris Jericho through it. You know, they're not really that strong. And if somebody wanted to shoot, or at least try, I'm not saying you should, all they'd have to do was just stand behind. You know, I don't think they'd probably be able to get it in from the front, but if they wanted to, the easiest way would be just to stand behind it, because they'd be able to shoot through the cage itself to get to that wrestler. So I've never really understood that, and I've never really thought that they were bulletproof that much, to be honest with you. And they weren't strong enough, because, like I said, if they were strong enough, I doubt Chris Jericho would have went through them. But anyway, number 9, all bad entrance. All the bad entrances. I believe, entrance. That's probably the participants in there as well. I mean, good God. Where do we begin with this? Santino's been in it. why was he even in it in the first place? You had DiBiase, you had Ron Killings, the Los Matadores, who are now the Shining Stars. Mike Knox was even in there as well. They just, in a way, they didn't fit at the time. And you've got, but the one on February 12th, the one on February 12th has some good people in it. There's not a good entrant. There's not good participants in there. There are all good, great stars in there. So, yeah, it's a little bit different though, but we'll have to wait and see. 8, Fan climbs a chamber. I don't remember this one, to be honest with you. Shane McMahon, you've had people like that. People always climb the chambers and that. I don't remember seeing this one, but I believed it was on a. It was from what I'm seeing. I believe it was on like an induction of it, like fans meeting it and everything like that, and then the fan just climbed the chamber on it. I believe it was like it was like a meet and greet kind of thing, like an access they do, and the fans just started climbing the chamber for no reason whatsoever. Kudos to him for doing it. I don't think it was a good idea, but hey, the result doesn't always matter, which is number 7, or the next one anyway. To be honest with you, no, it doesn't. It doesn't always matter. Hopefully, this one will matter this time around. Well, the one on February the 12th hopefully will matter. You know that better than I do, guys. If you've seen it, look out for my review this week on it. Hopefully. There was the New Year's Revolution one where Edge finally cashed it in. And then, Batista winning after John Cena went through hell because Batista ended up cashing it in and then ended up going to WrestleMania to defend it. Yeah, it's just whatever. The next one is Triple H. I believe the throat getting crushed. Now, you always get injuries in Elimination Chamber. I believe this was back at the very first one. The very first Elimination Chamber, which was in Survivor Series 02, I believe. Yep. It almost ended Triple H's career. The throat getting crushed and everything. It almost ended his career. It almost just ended him right there and then. Okay? Yes, he lost the WWE, the world title at that point. He lost the world championship at that point. But he almost lost his career as well. Because he ended up in the hospital after that as well. And that's when he came, when it was Shawn Michaels and RVD, that's when he popped back and cost Shawn Michaels the title. Yeah. That's why it's dangerous, guys. Next one is Goldberg lost. This was at SummerSlam. I think the plan for this, from what I remember, was Goldberg was meant to win. But for some reason didn't. And this was Goldberg's first time around. And Goldberg and Triple H never got along. They hated each other behind the scenes and everything. You always read the stories about how Triple H despised the guy. One time they met in a shop and had a confrontation outside of WWE and everything. I believe Goldberg was meant to win, but Goldberg went for a spear, and then the sledgehammer, which was brought in by Ric Flair, and Triple H whacked him with it, and then all hell broke loose after the match. But all of that led to Goldberg eventually winning it and Unforgiven. Next one is Jack Swagger winning. Jack Swagger. This poor sod. Yes, he was a world champion. Yes, he became world champion after cashing it in on Chris Jericho. I believe it was after WrestleMania. It's just... No. I think he ended up losing it, actually, the match, but, I mean, that's what led to the feud with probably him and Del Rio at the time. I don't remember much about Jack Swagger's participation in the Elimination Chamber, but it was probably one that, like I say, WWE wants you to forget. Next, the Extreme Elimination Chamber. ECW December to Dismember, WWE production, and what turned out to be the worst pay-per-view in the history of pay-per-views. Because the only match that was promoted, there was 2 matches by right. There was 2 matches that were promoted for this pay-per-view. The Chamber match itself, the Extreme Elimination Chamber, and I believe the Hardy Boys match and Eminem against Eminem, Mercury and Nitro. I believe them 2 were the only matches that were promoted. The rest were just, fill in to keep time and everything, time fillers, if you will. And the reason why, after this, I swear, after this pay-per-view, the next day, I read in the Sunday Mirror, the mirrors that we get over, the papers that we get over in the UK. I read in the Sunday Mirror that everybody was clowning for their money back. They wanted a refund because the pay-per-view sucked. The plan, if you believe the Chamber, if you believe the Paul Heyman from the CM Punk DVD, he wanted CM Punk to go over. But WWE, having its own fetish with strong boys, especially Vince McMahon, wanted Bobby Lashley to win. And he got his wish. And that's why it stunk the joint out. And that was the last night. And that was when basically Paul Heyman and Vince McMahon had their fallout. Next one is the Intercontinental Chamber. I don't remember who won this match that much. But there was a match for the Intercontinental... Oh, yes. Match for the Intercontinental Championship because Daniel Bryan was injured. And then they brought in the Intercontinental title. They said, for the first time ever, the winner of the Chamber match gets the Intercontinental Championship. Guess who won it? Ryback. Yeah. Oh, boy. Ryback ended up winning it. And I was all for it at first. I thought Ryback would have been a good champion. But was I wrong? He wasn't the worst champion, but he wasn't a good champion either. Simple as that. And number 1, I believe this is number 1. Good grief. Undertaker's appearance in the Elimination Chamber. He comes out, does his entrance, as he always does. As he always did. But you've seen the fan footage. His pyro set him on fire. That's why he didn't do his entrance properly when he came into the Elimination Chamber. And he came down and he was and then, the announcers were like, oh, cover it up. He's angry and everything like that. He just wants to get down there and do it. No. It set him on fire. That's what it was up. The pyro that he does, when he comes out and the smoke, the fire pops up as he was walking down the aisle, pops up. I don't know, something went wrong. Somebody obviously pressed the wrong button and it burnt him. Nearly burnt him to death. Oh boy. I can't remember what year it was. I believe it was the year where I believe it was the Chamber match where he fought Shawn Michaels at that WrestleMania, the same year he fought Michaels at WrestleMania, which led to him losing the championship, I believe. I believe he kicked the... it was when Shawn Michaels popped out from underneath the chamber and kicked him in the chin, basically. I might be wrong on that, but that's my jurisdiction and my opinion on that one. But I'll have to see. I'll have to look into that, but I believe it's that one. But that is the top 10 of the Elimination Chamber that WWE wants you to forget. Hope you guys enjoyed that, and I'll be back after this with an outro and a few thank yous as well, since it's 150. So, see you in a bit.
Be sure to listen to the Sunday Segway Wrestling Podcast.
What?
Every Sunday with Kinny Killer and the Galdem Sugar Shugs.
Yes!
With all the news, views, and laughter that you want.
They like jet airplanes. Woo! They like long limousines.
Every Sunday, the Sunday Segway Wrestling Podcast on Podomatic, iTunes, and YouTube.
So why don't you choke on that, slap nut?
Welcome back to the final part of the Wrestling Matters podcast, guys. And that about wraps it up for this episode 150. Hope you guys have enjoyed it. You can check this out on the Swerve Talk Network each and every week. You can also check this out on the Wrestling Matters channel, AJW Wrestling Matters on YouTube, Also, download it for free on SoundCloud and check it out on Radio Big World. Look them up on SoundCloud as well. Check out everybody else on the Swerve Talk Network as well. Max Wrestling, Kinny Killers, Sunday Segway. Check out Sunday Segway TV, S&M Show Podcast, Wrestling Unleashed featuring yours truly. Also, check out the other stuff that is on there as well. And yeah, have fun with that, guys. Now, also big shout out to everybody, my partners. Also, shout out to David Anderson and everybody else. Also, shout out to Talk Brunch. Check out Talk Brunch each and every Mondays, right after Raw as well. At Talk Brunch on Twitter for more information on that. Also, check out the Mystery Island and Wrestle Island, Facebook.com/Wrestle Island, Facebook.com/Back to the Island. I almost messed that up there, but anyway. Be sure to check all that good stuff as well. Also, if you're interested in games, guys, and video games, check out my Games Matter channel. That's right, Games Matter channel. Facebook.com/Games Matter channel. Check it out each and every time you can get on there. Subscribe if you're new. I will be doing some live streams coming up very soon on there as well. So if you want to get involved, come on down. Also, check out the Wrestling Matters channel as well. I am working on getting some stuff there to do on that channel. So just look out for it in the near future. I'll try and keep you posted on this podcast as best I can. Now, guys, it's 150 episodes. Little quick talk, going back memories that I've had on this people. Big thank you to everybody who's participated on the show and helped me out. You know, Tim Vicious, Michael Cook, Axel Mulligan himself, Darren Dyer, Kenny Killer as well, Fame Black, Crystal tags in, and the list goes on and on. Big thank you to Jezebeth, big thank you to Colleen Masters as well for the interviews, as well as the other ones as well, Lexa Rose, the Nikki Addams, which is still continuing. Next part of that will be next week. And all the good stuff as well. You guys rock. Everybody rocks. Even shout out to Daz as well. Thank you for letting me be on the Swerve Talk Network as well. I know we've had our different, there's a little bit of differences here and there, but you've always stood by me, and I greatly appreciate it, my man. Hopefully to have you on very, very soon. I know it's a little bit of an issue at the moment as well, especially when I'm working my ass off as well. It's all about that time and everything, but we'll get you on, my man. Don't worry about that. I'm plugging it and getting it sorted out to get you on ASAP. Now, also a big thank you to everybody on as well. Fuck you to all the haters out there. If you don't like me, or you've come across me in the tap as well, I don't give a damn as well. I want to be surrounded by wrestling fans and wrestling fans alone, ladies and gentlemen, doing this podcast. Wrestling fans that appreciate the business, that respect the business, and have a say, even though they're right or wrong, because that's what being a wrestling fan is all about. They all have a say, and not always they're right, but not always that as well. And trust me, guys, I've had a lot of says and a lot of opinions about the wrestling business, and I'm not always right. And again, I'm not always wrong, am I? So it is what it is at the end of the day. And great memories that I've had on this as well. Massimo Italiano as well. That's probably my best interview that I've done. And that's saying a lot. And that's no disrespect to anybody else out there, but that's probably my best interview that I've done, because I did an interview with him, Massimo Italiano, who's now in ICW as Massimo. We were talking about him, talking about the stuff and everything like that, and even talked about ICW as well, and how he was living in Glasgow and he wanted to be part of the ICW roster and everything like that. Well, thanks to that, I'm guessing some people heard it, and because he got his wish and he worked his ass off. And sir, I salute you very much indeed for that. And I enjoy your work as well on the ICW, because I'm a big ICW fan. So yeah, it's works out the best for you as well in future times to come. All in all, guys, 150 episodes. It's been a pleasure. It really has. It's really been a pleasure. I'm looking to take the Wrestling Matters podcast to the best levels that I can take it. How far this will go, I don't know, but I am in no intention of stopping, because I get to talk about the one thing I love more than anything in the world: wrestling. Professional wrestling, not just WWE, professional wrestling in general. All the best in pro wrestling. And hopefully I can take this to the Wrestling Matters channel and do some good stuff on there as well. I don't know. We shall see. But like I say, guys, thanks to everybody for their support on the Wrestling Matters podcast. Thanks to the guys for listening to it. Shout out to everybody on SoundCloud. And yeah, my name is Anthony Walker, guys. Until next time, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks for doing whatever it is you are doing. And thanks for your support as well. And I'm far from done, guys. I'm far from done. See you next week for episode 151. Until then, peace out.
Well, enough is enough, and it's time for a change. Professional wrestling, this is it. This is us standing up. Yes! 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 That's 13-14! Cena, I am the best in the world.
Cause that's the bottom line. Cause Stone Cold said so.